Okay, it's time to plant my fall garden. These are the pumpkins that were in the first video in this series that were just getting started, and as you can see, they've gone crazy. I need to prune them up, limit them to about 2 pumpkins per vine, and prune out the rest. And that's a subject for another day. Anyway, over here to their right, I have 2 rows next to my in the garden greenhouse, and everything in there is just about done. I have harvested everything, and I'm going to replant those for my fall garden. So I have got 2 30-foot soil beds that I'm going to start seedlings for, and I've also got about 20 feet inside of my in the garden greenhouse over here that I'm going to plan for as well. So here you see what I've got, and I'm going to go in the house, get back on my computer, and I'll show you how I have planned how many of each seeds I need to put in my seedling tray and get started. Here I have a list of the crops that I'm going to plant in my fall garden. I have, just for my own information, indicated the hardiness. Here we go on the spacing. Now let me back up. I am using my garden planting detail sheet, and I'm getting the row spacing, the number of rows, and of course my hardiness off of this sheet. And I'm looking up the crops that I want to plant, and I have simply gone and created this new spreadsheet. So the hardiness, the spacing, the number of rows, all of this information is coming off of the garden planting detail sheet. Now the total feet, seedling number, which row, this is all stuff that I've generated, and I'm going to explain what that is. Okay, total number of feet for my red beets here. I want to plant 3 feet worth of these red beets. I'm going to do 3 each of the red and the white, because I want to plant 3 feet of these red beets. They are spaced 2 inches apart, and they are grown in 2 rows. I have determined by calculating 3 feet, so 3 feet times 12 inches, 36 inches. There are 36 inches in 3 feet. I'm going to divide that by the number here, which is the spacing, every 2 inches. So I'm going to divided by 2 equals 18. Now there are 2 rows, so on each side of that row you're going to have 18 inches. So 18 divided by 2, 18. So 18 times 2 equals 36. So I need 36 plants for those 2 rows that are going to cover 3 feet of my 30-foot bed. I buy seeds from Mountain Valley, and generally Mountain Valley advertise their germination rate at 85%. And this is something that I do. This is not part of the Mittleider system. That's my own adaptation here. I calculate for a 20% loss or 20% failure to germinate. I also calculate in about another 10% of plants that will germinate, but they're just weak and they need to be removed. So what I'm going to do here to figure out how many plants I need in total, I'm going to multiply that times 0.3%, which gives me, I'm going to need another 10 seeds to be started. So 32 is how many plants I actually need to fill that 3-foot space with 2 rows of these red beets. I have calculated a 30% failure to germination and just a weak plant that I'm going to need to cull and never put in the ground, and that's what this plus 10 is. So I'm going to need a total of 42 seeds to start in my seedling trays to grow seedlings for my garden. And that is the same here with the white beets. Okay, my spinach, they're going to be spaced 6 inches apart, and again, my spacing, the hardiness, and the number of rows is coming from my garden planting detail sheet. I'm going to plant 10 feet of spinach. They're spaced 6 inches apart, so if I go to my calculator, clear all this out, 10 feet times 12 equals 120. These are spaced 6 inches apart, so divide by 6 inches gives me 20. There are 2 rows of spinach that are planted, so we're going to multiply that times 2, and that gives me 40, which is the first number here. I did my calculation, 40 times 0.30, and that's where I get this plus 12. I need to plant, or I need to start rather, 12 additional seeds to cover my failure to germination and just the number of plants that I don't want to put in the ground. If you put a weak seedling in the ground, you're going to get a weak plant. It's not going to produce as well. You only want to put the healthiest plants, the healthiest seedlings in your garden. Okay, my kale is the same way. My zucchini, I'm going to put a couple more zucchini in. I'm going to put in 4 feet of zucchini, which ends up being, because of the spacing, 21 inches of spacing in 1 row. I'm only going to actually have 2 more zucchini plants in there. Now, I also did not mention, if you look here, I'm going to grow a row under a cold frame, and I'm going to have one that's unprotected, which is the red here, and everything in green is in my greenhouse. But if you calculate up the total number of feet here, there's 30 feet. 30 feet here, and in my greenhouse there's a total of 20 feet. And as I'm figuring out these rows, I'm also determining or keeping track of how many feet of that 30-foot row I'm using. Okay, the last 2 items I'm going to show you are the broccoli and the cauliflower. The broccoli and the cauliflower have the same hardiness, and they're going to be the same spacing and the same number of rows. And I just want to show you, to reiterate again, where I'm getting the data from this other spreadsheet that I showed you. The broccoli has a hardiness of hardy. The spacing is 14 inches, and they are in 2 alternating rows. And when you go back to my garden plan here for the fall that I've done, my broccoli has a hardiness of hardy. It has a 14-inch base. It's in 2 alternating rows, and I'm going to fill 5 feet. The 5 feet in the seedling are numbers that I have determined. The hardiness, the spacing, and the number of rows are coming from the garden planting detail sheet. If you will go to the Mittleider Gardening Method Facebook group, it's got over 12,000 members. I think it's the biggest group that has that name. You can go to the file section once your membership is approved, and you can download this garden planting detail sheet for free. It has instructions on it on how to use it. It has this that I have used in this video, and it even has this handy little spring planting schedule. It tells you when to start seedlings and when you're going to put stuff in the garden. It is handy. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I do need to get my seeds planted, and I may or may not do another video on how I do that. As always, thank you for watching. If you have any questions on how this is done, post a comment and I will try and answer it for you. Good luck.